Hello. I'm going to go ahead and share this. So what we're going to look at today is the Internet Archive. So Internet Archive is a free resource that you can use. I typically give this as an example for people to use for books. Because Internet Archive is one of the 3 digitizing initiatives that are happening at the Genealogy Center. So we have the digitizing that we're doing through the Genealogy Center itself. We also have the digitizing that's being done by Internet Archive, and we also have the digitizing that's being done by Family Search. So Internet Archive and Family Search both have scanning stations in our basement. So they are actively helping to put materials online, which is kind of fabulous. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first thing I want to note is that they have over 24 million books available. These texts are anything and everything. They could be texts that are specific to medicine. They could be agriculture. They could be engineering. They could be genealogy. They could be just fiction, nonfiction, whatever floats your boat, they have been digitizing. So that's kind of exciting. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this icon where it says books up here. We're going to start with that. And once we do, there's a lot of different options. We have books to borrow, open library, featured. You can look and see there's Smithsonian libraries and genealogy, woo, and then Lincoln Collection. Okay, so Lincoln Collection, you may not know this, but that's us. We have a massive Lincoln Collection at the Allen County Public Library. So keep that in mind. And then there's the top collections, so you can see what's there. And then let's go ahead and click on genealogy. So we're here because of genealogy, so let's click on it. So once you click on it, you get this. Now I'm going to click over here to About so we can get a little bit more information. So it has a description of what they're doing and where they're getting their resources. So hey, Allen County Public Library. And if we scroll down, you can see, oh hey, variant misspellings, genealogy. How many variant misspellings have you guys seen of the word genealogy? It's pretty stupendous, isn't it? So we can go back here and go back to collection. And once you go to collection, there are a lot of different options, and I want to make sure that you are aware of what you can do. So you can change what you're looking at. So right now we're looking at views. You can also change to title, and once you do that, you're going to get an alphabetical list, and you can sort it from A to Z, Z to A, whatever floats your boat right here. So once that loads, you'll be able to see the alphabet going across that bar. Another thing to note, I'm not going to click on this, but instead of these little images, you can get a list instead of that. So you can click on that if you wish. All right, so we have the title. Now you can also do date published. Now if you hover over date published, you get options of date archived, date published, date reviewed, date added. Now these are all really interesting. If I know for a fact that something has recently been uploaded or they recently got this content at Internet Archive, that would probably be something I would want to look at. But for most of our purposes, we probably want to look at date published. So if you click on date published, it's going to come up with this. Now I'm going to go ahead and click this so I can change the sort. So you can see that we're now getting some really early stuff. So if that's what you're looking for, you just want to look at the earliest materials available, then that's an option. So you can also look at the creator. So could be beneficial if that's what you're looking for, or maybe it's something that's not as beneficial. It's completely up to you what you're looking for and how you're going to utilize these tools. I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of their existence. So another thing that you can do after that loads is look over here to the left-hand side. These are our filters. Now you can see how many results we have within the genealogy collection. Now if I scroll down, you can also see that you can search this collection. So for example, I'm going to search for Colorado. And I just hit enter. I type it in and hit enter. Now, once that loads, it's only going to show us materials that have Colorado in the title, the subject, or keywords. So it's in the background of the material. So what is used, the metadata is what is used to basically identify the material itself. So you'll be able to see that a little bit more clearly when I show this. So we have histories, we have very specific things. It looks like a journal, a newspaper, a yearbook. So these are specific to Colorado. Now, if I change it to text contains and hit enter, it's going to take a really long time, and we're going to sit here for a minute. And so while that's doing that, I can actually come over here and talk about some of these. So you can see what this is a part of, any additional collections. The media type, you're almost always going to see collections and texts here if you're in the books, because it's not going to be pulling up at the other materials like audio or video. You can filter by the years. You can filter by topics and subjects. You can filter by collection or by creator. Ah, hey, it loaded. So when you are searching the text contents, you're searching inside the book. So when you search inside the books, it gives you these lovely little clips of what is in there that have to do with that. Now, something you're going to note is here, this looks like an open book that you can look at. And you can even see that it's from the Allen County Public Library. This one has a borrow button. So that is something to note. Internet Archive has the option to let you borrow books like any other library. Now, the beauty of that is we are all stuck home and we can't go to libraries to check out books. So here's another resource for you. Now, mind you, the Allen County Public Library is offering like loads of digital resources. So if you haven't checked those out, if you're local, make sure you do. And check with your local libraries. A lot of them have ebooks and all sorts of different things that you can look at. Okay, so in order to look at this a little bit differently, I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these. I'm not sure I want to click on that one. That sounds like a bad life decision. So we're going to click on the first one from the Allen County Public Library. And so what's going to happen is we're going to get results here in a minute. And those little results are going to look like this blue bubble. This bubble is basically our indicator that that word appears on that page. Now, I'm looking at something so incredibly broad that this could be problematic. You may not want to search for a state unless you're doing a very broad project. So for genealogy purposes, you want to look probably for that surname, or maybe you really just want to look up the town or city or even the county. We could go with counties. But the state, this is complete foolishness. So it's taking a long time because it's looking for the word Colorado in a book about Colorado, and you can't even differentiate the bubbles. So I've never seen this before. This is actually quite entertaining. So we're going to go ahead and click on one of them just to see what happens. Whatever page this ends up on. Okay, so it actually comes up. Oh my gosh, every single page has Colorado on it because they have the history of Colorado. So fantastic life decision. So we're going to zoom in. And this is just like any of the other programs that you use that highlights the words that you're searching for. So example, the census in Ancestry, or maybe one of the newspapers. databases, newspapers.com, newspaper archive. So you can actually look inside and find the highlighted portion, and that's the word you were looking for. So maybe I was actually looking for Henry Lowell and wanted his biography. So this is a good piece of information to have. So you want to make sure that you're looking at this. All right, I'm going to go back. There we go. I'm going to go back again. Okay. So we didn't quite get through all of the filters. We talked about the topics and subjects on the left-hand side, collection, and then you can also sort by creator or language. I love that handwritten English is in here because that tells me, yes, this really is genealogy. So you can see all the different things that are available. I'm going to go back and click on views again because we do get questions about this. The census is on here. You can find the census, and you can see that these are collections. So what this is genealogy is the overarching collection, and then these census collections are sub-collections within this collection. So you can see that there's items in there. So make sure you note that. So let's go ahead and go back to books. I want to click on this again. Because while we've been looking at all these different things, one of the things you can do is go to books to borrow. Now I'm going to click on this. Now remember how I said this was a library? This is truly a library where you can check these out. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of look and see what's on here. Some of these are waitlisted. So basically you have to put a hold. You just have to put a hold on it. It's exactly like borrowing a book from a library. Available to borrow, etc. What I'm going to do to kind of go through this, because you can see it's starting off with the Journal of Hand Surgery, which is probably not something I ever want to look at. I'm going to go ahead and do a search for genealogy. And once I do that, I'm going to get any of the results that have to do with genealogy. Now, you can see what's available and not. So this book right here has join waitlist. So that means that this is already checked out to someone and we have to wait for it to be returned in order to look at it. And I can scroll down and see what else is in here. There's all sorts of different books. Okay, so Somerset Homecoming. This is a book that I actually really like, and I actually own a copy of this. So we're gonna go ahead. If you wanted to, you could click on it to look and see what it says. Now, here's the thing. I already checked out this book. So if I had wanted to, I'm gonna go back. You can click on borrow, and when you click on the borrow, it gives you the option of borrowing the book. So I already have this book, and it's a really amazing book if you ever get the chance to read it. But I have some options. I'm gonna move my little screen thing. I can search inside the book. So let's say I wanted to look for something specific. I can download it. So I can do a smaller file or a high quality file. And this is if I wanted to download it to look at it on a tablet or some sort of reader. I can also return the book. I have 13 days left. But let's go ahead and return the book. You only get 10 books, by the way. That's very similar to a library. So if I hadn't borrowed the book, this is what the screen that would have come up. I would have gotten a limited preview, and then I would be able to borrow this book and then look through it. So I'm probably confusing the bejeebus out of their statistics by returning a book and immediately checking it out again. But this is a pretty amazing book. I would definitely recommend looking at it if you have some time and are interested. It's well written. So there's a lot of different things that you can look at, whether it be a family history, whether it be a history of a different area that you wanted to look at, a town, county, region. But you may be looking at these books to look for more historical context to put your family members into. So to understand the history of the time, to understand the history of the people. So maybe you are looking for a history of, okay, so you know that you had a family member that was a doctor in the 1860s. What was life like? Well, that's what you would want to do, is look for a book on that. So how did they become a doctor during that time period? How advanced was medicine? What were they expected to do? Did they have help? Did they have nurses? What were the facilities like? So things are so vastly different, even in different cultures, let alone different time periods. So you have to kind of know what you're talking about when you're talking about your family's occupations or how they lived, what they ate, how they clothed themselves, where they, like the buildings they physically lived in. So looking at this historical context could be incredibly helpful to putting together that family history that you were striving to do. So let's go ahead and go back to Internet Archive. Because another thing I wanted to know is I was able to check out that book because I'm already logged in. So you can sign up for an account pretty easily. I'm going to log out here so I can show you. If you hit sign in and you don't have an account, you can sign up for free, and the screen is super simple. This is it. This is all you have to do. They'll send you an email to verify who you are. You click it, cool, done. Super simple. I'm going to go back and log back in. Okay, so now I'm logged back in, so I can do some other things too. But let's go ahead and do another search, look at something different. So up here, you can see the book icon. Down here, the book icon with 24 million, signifying 24 million books that have been digitized. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. And once I do, it's going to tell us that these are books and texts. They also tell you about the 1.3 million modern ebooks that can be borrowed. I mean, we are all stuck at home. But I want to look at some of these sub-collections. So this is the overarching collection, ebooks and text, and then the sub-collections are within these. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down because I want to show you something. And make note that they do have the filters on the left-hand side again. And they do have something that also is added. So they have the always available to borrow, and waitlist. So let's go ahead and click on always available. It decreases the number of books we have access to by a very small amount, but that way I know I can click on it and take a look at what we're actually trying to look at. So once that loads, we're going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit further so I can show you one of the cool sub collections that I really like. So let's get this to load. I'm going to scroll down anyways while it's loading. So you can see the sub-collections. You can even look at, oh, Allen County Public Library, see what's in there. Boston Public Library, University of Alberta Libraries. That's not loading, so we're going to click on this. So this is JSTOR. This is early journals, basically, published prior to 1923 in the United States. So this is a really cool resource. In college, I had access to this, and there's a specific collection that I was able to get into and found some of my family history. So right here, this is the William and Mary Quarterly, so I'm going to click on that. And this is the specific collection that I found in college, which was a hot minute ago, despite how old I look. And when this loads, I'm going to scroll down, because what's really kind of fun is that second book is about my family. So if any of you are related to Carters in Virginia, hello cousins, we're probably related. So this is a Carter family history that was done, and if I scroll down, it's going to give me some more data about it. So this was done by Mr. Miller in 1910. So this is pretty early. You can see some publication information, what this is from. You also have the option to favorite it, which I already did. Share the item. And if you click on that, you get this nice little screen. So mostly I would recommend emailing it to yourself to put into maybe a spreadsheet, but you could also copy this and have this in a spreadsheet so you can go back to this really easily. I'm going to click off of that. You can also flag it. So if for some reason it's absolute gobbledygook and there's an error or something happened, you can flag the item as well. As you go down over here, you see some data that is used for the background of the system. Over here, we have the download options. So why would you download this? Well, that way you would be able to look at this on your own device at any point in time. You are not restricted by the internet. You are not restricted by a computer. You could access this via a device if you're hooked up to the internet, but some people just have a Kindle and they want to use that. You have the option to download this as a Kindle file. You can also download full text, EPUB, but mostly I recommend a PDF. I personally think PDFs are easy to read and they're pretty universal on devices. So it's a good way to go. Now, if you click on show all and you see things that don't make sense or you don't know what they are, don't worry about it. We're not here to figure out all the data. Computer classes, it's not a computer class. So just note that that is an option to download. You can see what collections this is in. You can also add a review. So let's say there's some really cool information in here and you are super excited about it. You can then put in a title of the review, talk about how great this material is or how horribly unsourced it is, whatever the case may be, and then give it a rating. Now, I'm not going to do this right now because that would take a while. You can also see who uploaded the information. So Jake J, thank you for uploading this in 2013 because you have added more content for people to use. So something else that you can do in here is you can search. So I'm going to go ahead and do a search for Thomas. And once I do, I'm going to get those bubbles again, except this time it will not be a solid bar of bubbles at the bottom of the screen like before, because that was slightly ridiculous in the Colorado book. So we're going to go ahead, and once those pop up, I'm going to be able to click on them. Until then, I wanted to cover a little bit of what's going on over here. You are able to flip the pages forward and back. So it's just like sitting with the book in front of you and just clicking forward and back or flipping the page. I say clicking. You can tell I sometimes read books on Kindles. Tap. There we go. Okay. So I am going to go ahead and click on this one. I feel like that one looks good. So what this is going to do is it's going to take me to the bubble. It's going to take me to that page once it works. Okay, we're going to that one. We're going to that one. Cool. All right, so now we have this information, and I know there's Thomas Carters in this family. So it's a little bit hard to read, so let's go ahead and zoom in. And you can also, like I said, flip the pages. You can make it a 1 page. You can go back to 2. You can also do thumbnails, although incredibly unhelpful for reading a book. Let's go back to the 2 page. You can zoom in and out. You can also toggle to full screen, which sometimes makes it a little bit easier to read. And then this is my personal favorite. You are able to have the book read aloud to you. Now, is it perfect? No. Does it sound funny? It sounds like a robot. So it's a little bit strange, but it's a cool feature. I mean, you could be doing something else and listening to a book. So let's say you're sewing masks, because that's the environment we're in right now. Maybe you're doing that and want to read one of these books. You could have it read aloud to you while you're doing something like that. Or perhaps you're just curious how they would pronounce something. Again, it's a robot. It's not perfect. I don't know. But let me show you how it works.
Appears frequently in the deed records of this county, but no will can be found. He died in 1828, and was buried in the Carter graveyard in Scott County. 119 William 4 Carter, John, 3 Henry, 2, married and settled in Prince William County, where his will was probate September 5, 1794. He had the...
Okay, so one of the things I wanted you to know is that it highlights the part that it's reading about, which is kind of neat. So as you saw that, it just kept flipping to the next part. Now, the other thing you might have noticed is that it reads everything it can. So those numbers are kind of fun. William, Thor, Carter. So kind of keep that in mind. And sometimes they try to read things that are handwritten, like a signature. Sometimes these books have signatures in them. So those are really horrible. So just prepare yourself. You're going to hear some gobbledygook. But overall, this is a really cool tool, and you can utilize it. So make sure you're checking this out and playing around with it and see what you can get it to do. Now I'm going to go back and toggle it back. And, you know, one of the other things I wanted to note is that, let's say that you're interested in other things that this author has written. At that point, you can click on their name, and eventually, I feel like I should have the Jeopardy song playing in the background when things are loading. Eventually, it's going to bring up other things that that person has written. So the Carter genealogy is in 2 parts. And then he also wrote something about early marriages in Bedford. So now we have more information, which is pretty spectacular. So let's go back to the Internet Archive. And, you know, let's do a general search. Let's do a search for Alexander Hamilton. Why? Because I'm slightly obsessed with the musical. But we're going to go ahead and do a search, and it's thinking for a moment. I don't know if all of you are on Internet Archive following along, making it slow, or perhaps there's something else happening in this world that I'm unaware of. But I wanted to show you what happens when you search the entirety of Internet Archive. Now, what you're going to get is a little bit of everything. So we have videos, we have a book, we have an audio clip, and we have images. So there's a lot of different types of media that are popping up, and you can see these media types over on the left-hand side. If you click more, then you get the entire list of what we have. So that information can be helpful. So I did Alexander Hamilton because I knew for a fact that there's going to be information. He's a pretty good guinea pig. People have written about him. So what about your own family? You never know what has been put in here. This is an Internet Archive for everyone. So make sure you're looking for your family. Now, you could be using this for that historical context, but you could also be using this to search for specific family members. Because let me show you something. You can upload materials. So let's say that you have some incredible pictures and you want to share them. You can contribute. You can contribute books that are out of copyright. You can contribute video and audio files. So maybe you have some information on your family history that you want to share. This is a possibility. This is a place where you can upload that information. It would be incredibly wrong of me not to also mention that the Genealogy Center gathers family history digital content as well. So make sure you think of us as well. But it's always good to have things in more than one place. It's safe. it's safe to do that. I mean, the Genealogy Center backs everything up in multiple ways, but you can too. So put things on Internet Archive, put things on the Genealogy Center website, put them in other websites as well, because family history is about sharing that history with one another, with your family. And sometimes you don't even know who your family is because there's so many generations or periods of time between you guys. So you never know. You could have a fourth cousin that is dying for information about your mutual ancestor that you have, and they haven't been able to discover yet. So maybe you could put that online and be that link. But let's go back. So the other thing is you may be thinking, okay, audio, video clips, why would I even look? Well, you never know. Younger people are doing their family trees, their family histories in a lot more different ways. So you may be looking for videos or audio clips. You may be looking for an audio clip of an oral history that you may not have known that existed. And it may not be for your ancestor specifically, or maybe it may be for a descendant that discusses a mutual ancestor. So make sure you're looking. People get really, really creative with how they're putting their histories together. So you may find a video or an audio clip as well. But let's go back because I want to show you something else. So there's something interesting that Internet Archive offers us, and it's called the Wayback Machine. And no, this isn't the Wayback Machine from Mr. Peabody and Sherman. This is the Wayback Machine that looks at the history of the internet. So we have this internet, and it's been around for quite some time. And what they've been doing is taking snapshots of pages throughout history of the internet. So you can see what Google or Yahoo looked like, or AOL, or Ask Jeeves. You guys remember that? That's been a hot minute. So let's go ahead and do a search. Let's see if we can get the Allen County Public Library to come up. Okay, so that one's not working. Let's see if this one's working. Okay, so acpl.lib.in.us is coming up. Now, what it's telling us is we can look at 2020, or we can look earlier. Now, why am I looking at this? Well, this is the home website for the Allen County Public Library, and I really want to look at the Genealogy Center. Because one of the things that we know about the internet is that pages go down and things go away. Hello, RootsWeb. So sometimes, not with the case with RootsWeb, sometimes you're able to recover some of that information by looking at one of these pages, which is incredible. This information is priceless. So I know for a fact that about 10 years ago, like, we could look at the Genealogy Center website, but before Genealogy Center had its own website, it was part of the ACPL website. So what happens if we go to, let's see here, 1997, and what you want to do is scroll down, and you can see on this lovely map that there's bubbles. Now I'm going to look at this bubble, June 24th, 1997. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and click on the first link that's there so we can see. And hey, look at this. Hello 1990s website. Pretty clean, pretty plain. There's one picture on the far left side. That's about it. So we have some information here, but the biggest thing is genealogy. So why would you want to look at this one? Well, maybe there was a resource that you found and you're like, I found it on this page around this time period. I can't remember what it is. Well, this would maybe be an option to help you figure out what it was and go from there. And you can see the types of materials that were available during this time period. And you can also see, okay, well, who we are. Does this actually go to something? Because remember, these are snapshots. They may not work. The links may not work within the snapshot itself. They didn't take a picture of that page. So that's something you have to keep in mind. So you may not be able to get into a page. Hopefully what you're looking for is on the home page. But let's go ahead. So you can see how lovely 1997 is. Let's go ahead and go to genealogycenter.org. And once we do, you're going to be able to see the current page. So it's going to be the most recent snapshot that was done. So February 13th, 2020. Now, what's really cool about this and something to keep in mind is that we are living in a historic event right now. We are living in a period of time that will be researched and discussed in the years, decades, centuries to come. This is an incredible point of history that we're living through this. So keeping that in mind, beyond documenting what is going on in your worlds, like what are you seeing? How are you feeling? Are you documenting it by writing it down, taking pictures, whatever you want to do? I highly recommend it. But something we can also look at and be able to document is looking at websites before this happened and then looking at them after. So this is the most recent snapshot that was done of the Genealogy Center website. So if you look at this and then look at the page today, it's vastly different. You would never see something that has canceled across our page before. I mean, our motto is make it work, basically. Programming. We want to have programs. We want to have you come in and see us and do research and be with us. So going from having a lot of programs in this bar that's going across the top of the screen to having none is just insane. So looking at all these other websites and how they are being remembered, how they are being documented in this online archive of websites is pretty amazing. But let's go ahead and go back to the early website. So this is 10 years ago. 10 years ago is when this came across, when they got their own website. So once this loads, again, I really want that Jeopardy song. You can see the website has not changed much. The content has changed some, but the website itself has not changed much. So you can go through here and say, okay, well, there's some information in here that I wanted to see, or who was working then? You can click on genealogy librarians and see whose pictures are in here. Databases, you can see that we've been digitizing a lot more materials in more recent years because we have a lot more free databases available. If you click on the on-site databases, you can see the different ones that we have. So you can see that we've been adding more. We have 20 on-site databases that we pay for so you don't have to. So keep that in mind to come and research with us. Anybody know what this is? This is Fold 3. They've changed their name. So you can find things that have changed or have become a part of something else throughout time if you're looking at these. So kind of an interesting way to look at the past, look at the past resources that have been available. I also think it's fun to go to Google. I mean, it's Google. Apparently I need the website now. Okay, so let's go to early Google. Let's go to 99. We're gonna go to February and we'll just click on this first one. So we'll see a 1990s Google website. So Google's been around for so long at this point, 20 years. A lot of people forget what life was like before it. And I just want to note that this is beta. This is beta. See that logo? That is definitely different. You can also see that there's information down here. You can get monthly updates. But I think this is interesting to look at. This is our own history. It's more recent history, but it's just kind of fun to explore and say, okay, we have come a long way. We have advanced technology and internet and websites quite a bit, actually. So it's kind of interesting to look at. But mainly, I want you guys to look at this to see, okay, what websites have I looked at previously and maybe forgotten about that I need to go back to? So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're utilizing the Wayback Machine to the best of your abilities and all of Internet Archive, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to go back here to this screen. I'm going to go back to the home. We're just going to type it in. Okay. All right, so we have a lot of really cool stuff, but the first thing I always tell people to do when they're going to a new website is to go to the About page. Why? It's always good to know what the purpose of the website is. So it tells you, hey, we began in '96 by archiving the internet itself, which is really cool. And then they started adding more things. So kind of good to keep in mind. The other page I always recommend people going to is the help page, because it's going to tell you about the different types of searches you can do, whether or not you can use quotations around words or anything else. So make sure you are checking out any of the help pages on new websites. Not every website has a help page, but Internet Archive does. So utilize this. Make sure you understand how to do the searching. So you can actually go in here and say, okay, books and text, a basic guide. How do I read a book online? Tips and troubleshooting. So then once it'll tell you the different things that you can do. So anyway, this I think is incredibly helpful. Now there's a lot of information in here. Something that might help is to note that if you favorite items, it goes into your library. So this is a special one that I just created for this class account, with a lovely little picture that I just threw in there for fun. So I just added to my favorites that one book, the Carter book, just as an example. So I can go in here and put all of my favorites in there, and it can be in one place. So then that way I know what my resources are. So I think that's really important to note. Once it loads, it's really helpful, I promise. Another thing to show you is you can go to Google and do a search for something specific. So if you do the site archive.org, it searches their website. So Google will search their website for the county and the name that you're specifically looking for. And that's one of my top tips is always search Google if you're not finding what you're looking for. Google or any other search engine can sometimes find things that are hiding from you. So use quotations, be creative, use different abbreviations. So you have James, maybe abbreviate James as the name. You have county, abbreviate county. See what comes up, because you never know how things are written in books or documents or on a specific website. So you want to be as creative as possible in order to find the materials that you're looking for. And that still hasn't loaded, which is kind of crazy. There we go. Okay, got that back. Huzzah, I got it. All right, so now you can see that Carter genealogy is in here. So that's incredibly helpful for me to have that information together. I can also see what my loans are in here. So I have that Somerset book, and I can go ahead and open it and return it. because I own this book and I don't want to be holding on to that book when somebody else could be borrowing it. But there's a lot of really cool stuff in here, and it's a really excellent resource. Now, I know we're all stuck at home, maybe losing our minds, but I want to remind you that beyond genealogy, if there's something else you want to look for or do, they have a lot of modern stuff as well. Modern. So for example, Hogan's Heroes. You can watch Hogan's Heroes on here. There's cartoons in here. So maybe that's a good way to fight boredom or cabin fever, is to look for new videos or books to read. So take your time, explore this website. I'm happy to answer any questions. Our email address is genealogy@acpl.info. We're still getting in there and answering questions. If you want to specifically ask me a question, my name is Allison, so you can direct the question to me. But I hope this helps. I hope this is something that you might want to explore, learn about, and hopefully you'll be able to join us for more classes as they are coming up. So have a wonderful day and stay safe.